welcome to Cindy's Library. This is Cindy, and I'm actually filming this on the first day of the new year, which means December is officially over, so we can go through what I read for the second half of December. So let us do it. First of all, of course, I had to read A Christmas Carol. I did not read the annotated version this year, I'm afraid. I looked and saw at least 100 pages of introductory materials, and I decided, nope, not doing that this year. But I did read the main story, and it was wonderful as ever. For those few of you who don't know, Christmas Carol is the story of an old miser named Scrooge, and at Christmas he is visited by a number of ghosts, and well, let's just say by the end he is not the man he was before. Let's see, next. Yes, George MacDonald. So I read The Gifts of the Child Christ, which is the first one here. This is the story of a little girl, I think her actual name might be Sophie, but no one calls her that since she can't say it, so she has her own way of saying it. But it's about her family. I think her mother died shortly after her birth. In any case, her mother died. She's only 4 or so. Her father relatively recently remarried. Her father didn't really care for her mother, so he doesn't care much for her. She's not her stepmother's natural daughter, so her stepmother doesn't care much for her. But let's just say all of that changes on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. Oh, Idylls of the King. I made it through. I had to do the audiobook, but I made it through. The ending especially actually reminds me of the Book of Mormon and the Book of Ether, both within the larger Book of Mormon, because they deal with the fall of civilizations. Of course, that still doesn't say anything about the whole Lancelot and Guinevere thing, which I still don't like particularly. To be fair, it's not like they actually do so much, but everyone but Arthur seems to know how Lancelot and Guinevere really feel about each other. So, anyway, I did finally read it. Some gorgeous passages. Let me see if I can find it. If thou shouldst never see my face again, pray for my soul. More things are wrought by prayer than this world dreams of. Wherefore let thy voice rise like a fountain for me night and day. For what are men better than sheep or goats, if, knowing God, they lift not hands of prayer both for themselves and those who call them friend? Beautiful language. Oh, yes. I also read Sarah Eden's 3 Christmas Stories. So this one came out this year in a physical edition by itself. It was in a Christmas collection when it first came out. Christmas at Falstoby Castle. This one, we get the dangerous Duke, the Duke of Kildare, and his mother is coming to Falstone Castle for Christmas. Given that his relationship with his mother is complicated to say the least. Interesting times. Let's see. The second one was The Holly and the Ivy. This is when the dangerous Duke, the Duke of Kildare, first sadly became a duke at the age of 7, I believe, when his father passed away. And like I said, his relationship with his mother is interesting to say the least. So he ended up not really having a Christmas that year. But Will Lucas and I forget his wife's name. Anyway, will they let that stand since they are in the same county and neighbors? No, they're not going to let that stand. So that was in the Holly and the Ivy collection. Last one is Christmas Forevermore. This one is not connected to any of Sarah Eden's series, I believe, but it is very Christmassy. We have a Christmas Carol, basically, but it is the Regency era. There is a woman who is a matchmaker. She has some friends that help her, but she's the main instigator. And she tells our heroine she is going to get her married, or at least engaged, by the end of Christmas, or else, and she's going to send him 3 different eligible bachelors to try out. And Christmas mayhem ensues. That's the best way to put it. Okay. I also, read A Literary Christmas, or at least some items in here. I got through Anthony Trollope's, so it has some interesting ones all about Christmas. We got through the ones before Christmas, excitement of waiting for Christmas, and about 2/3 the ones for the Nativity. Or no, we got through the Nativity as well. So about halfway through Christmas Day. And for future Christmases, we have Christmas Fair, Christmas at War, A Child's Christmas, Seasonal Snow and Ice, and New Year. So these are very short stories, chapters or snippets from chapters or from short stories that are Christmassy, and these tend to be from classic authors. D.H. Lawrence, William Wordsworth, Emily Bronte, Charles Dickens, Christina Rossetti, John Milton, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, G.K. Chesterton, John Donne, Anne Bronte, Anthony Trollope. Those are just a few of the ones in here. Didn't get as much in here as I thought I might, A Classic Christmas, but I did finally read A Cricket on the Hearth. Not quite as good as A Christmas Carol, to be fair. A Christmas Carol is very hard to beat, but it was quite enjoyable, and quite in keeping with the festive mood. So, yeah, I believe certainly the Christmas season, if not Christmas Day, when A Cricket in the Hearth takes place, We have our main couple. I think he's basically a transport. I'm not sure if it's more goods or people or what. Anyway, he does bring a stranger home around Christmas time, which makes things interesting for his wife, for reasons, and their mean neighbor, who's a toy maker but very Scrooge-like. He does some things connected with that. He also has almost an equivalent of Bob Cratchit and Tiny Tim. He has a man who does most of the work making the toys and such, and his blind daughter. But it's Christmas, so of course everything has to turn out in the end. But I won't say anything more about it, so you won't be spoiled if you haven't read it. Well worth reading. I reread Jacob T. Marley by R. William Bennett. So I think most people know the general idea of the story of A Christmas Carol, even if they haven't actually read it, with Scrooge and the three ghosts and his redemption by the end. But what about Jacob T. Marley? Doesn't he deserve a redemption too? And how did he even get the chance to actually be seen as a ghost by Scrooge on Christmas Eve? Well, this book answers all those questions. How Marley became the way he was, how he met Scrooge and influenced Scrooge, and how he got his chance to turn Scrooge's life around, and in the process, perhaps changed his own afterlife around. I also reread Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. This was a favorite. I probably read it a dozen times when I was a teenager. First read it when I was 13. It wasn't 100% perhaps as good as I remember, but still, this will always have a place in my heart. Little Women is about the March sisters. Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy. Each of them are different with different personalities and interests and the way they deal with the world. And it starts near Christmas, and the first half ends on Christmas. This actually combines two books, Little Women and Good Wives. Little Women is basically a year in the life or so of the March family during the Civil War. Good Wives start 3 years later, and it goes on for 5, 6, 7 years, something like that. And we see how Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy finish growing up and become women and wives and mothers and members of society, etc. and so forth. And if you are wondering, not sure who I would say I relate to most now. I loved Jo's personality, and I could certainly relate to reading and writing and such growing up. But her personality is basically the opposite of mine. So personality-wise, I'm probably closer to Meg in a lot of ways. Yeah, that's probably true. Amy's too ambitious. And while I like to think I am sweet, no one can match Beth for sweetness. So, Seeking Persephone, Sarah Eden again. This is the first of the Lancaster sibling series by Sarah Eden. So in this book, we start with the dangerous Duke, the Duke of Kelder, Adam, who no one calls but his best friend Harry. He doesn't understand how he has a best friend. He neither wants a best friend nor encourages Harry, but Harry insists he is Adam's best friend. Anyway, the Duke of Kelder has very much a reputation. There's a reason why he's called the Dangerous Duke. If he really wanted it, he could run the country for the Prince Regent. No one says no to the Duke of Kelder, which perhaps explains why Persephone finds herself married to him. She is the eldest of 6 children. Mother died in childbirth 8 years ago to the youngest daughter. Persephone was 12 at that time, and ever since then, Persephone has had to act as the mother of the family, especially since they are poor gentry, and her father is basically an absent-minded professor. Even on his best days, he's not practical. So she's desperate. And when the Duke of Kelder offers her a ton of money for her family and potential sponsorships for her brothers and things like that, she doesn't feel like she can say no. But is this going to be a successful marriage? Well, the other thing about the Duke of Kelder is his hearing and inner ear part is fine, but he didn't have an outer ear covering on one of his ears, so he was subjected to tons of surgeries as a tiny boy, trying to find missing ear parts. And so he has lots of scarring on that side of the face. Another reason why he is so gruff and such, and only enhances his reputation, of course. So, can a beauty like Persephone love a beast like the Dangerous Duke? Well, of course they can, but how they get there, that's the fun. So, perfect light read to end the year. Oh, it is buried. I think that was everything. Though, oh no, it wasn't. So I will have to find my list. Okay, I also read, let's see. Okay, oh, the Book of Cymbeline. That is by Emma Stewart. This is her 3rd book. I believe it covers winter to spring, the adventures of the kitten she adopted. And Cymbeline finally gets to meet new cats. So very, very exciting. Let's see, what else? Oh, yes. I read Shepherds, Why This Jubilee has 3 Christmas talks by Jeffery R. Holland, including one where he shares perhaps his worst Christmas ever, and yet it somehow managed to be Christmas anyway, because of what Christmas really means. And I also read A Matter of Secrets by Honor Raconteur. This is, I believe, the 10th in the Henry Davenport case files. Well, Henry and Jamie, they finally are getting a vacation. They're even going out of the country, so no one can drag them back into anything, which is perfect because Henry is planning on finally proposing to Jamie. Yay! Except things keep happening. There are robberies at the hotel where they are staying. Then a storm comes in and cuts off the hotel from the mainland because it's on an island. And they lose electricity for part of it. And then there's a murder. And one of the things that was stolen was the engagement ring Henry was going to give to Jamie. But Henry is going to propose one way or another. Somehow, in spite of everything that is happening. This is a return to form. It's just fun. Interestingly, without spoiling anything, I will say there's not a 100% complete resolution, but I don't think that the Henry Davenport case files are ending yet, so that is okay. Or maybe it is just one of those unsolvable things that do happen in real life. Anyway, that was my reading for the second half of December. Quite enjoyable, and I hope your reading was just as good. Have you read any of these books, or what was your reading like for December? I'd love to hear all about it. Thank you so much for stopping by. Truly do appreciate it. So until next time, I hope we all stay safe and healthy, and as always, happy reading.